Mike Lemire is the VP of Customer Success at Toast and has previously worked at companies like Notarize, Hubspot, and Yahoo. After starting out in the music industry, he transitioned into account management and eventually customer success, where he spent the past few years building scalable SaaS teams.
Keith is the CEO for you guys, right?
That is true.
Yeah. So I worked with him at HubSpot. He's a pretty hip guy too. I think he's probably, I don't know if we ever talked music much, but I imagine he's got some pretty good ears.
When we were in the office before, it was like a breather office, so like very small confined quarters. He would just play his what was it, like Japanese kick pop or whatever, just loud.
I'm not a big fan of his music taste. Unfortunately, yeah, great guy, really sharp guy. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Without a Roadmap. It's the podcast for tech folks who get the job done but are still figuring it out. My name is Yonas, joined here by my co-host Cameron Curry and a very special guest, VP of Customer Success at Toast, Mike Lemire.
Happy to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you for joining us on your special day. We heard that it is your birthday today, so happy birthday.
Thank you. What better gift than to be on a podcast with you?
Right. You have any special plans, some dinner, something over the weekend?
Yeah, so I've got can't really go too far because we've got a baby on the way, and the baby could come any day now, so I don't want to stray too far. But I like to do pizza adventures. So on special occasion, go get a pizza that you wouldn't normally get. So there's this spot out in Woburn called Louie's, and it's crazy when you call them and say, I want a pizza. Usually they'll say, great, come on by 20 minutes. It'll be ready for you. Louis will say, they'll tell you what time to show up. So I'm going to call it in after this. They might say, be here at 5, or they might say, be here at 7:30. They'll let me know when to be there, and I'll go and pick it up. It's one of those cash only spots. It's great.
Nice. Generally, restaurants that are cash only taste better. I don't know, if Toast has run some sort of, data analysis on that. It'd be interesting to hear the results.
Yeah, it's the taste index might be a tough one to quantify for us. So I don't know if we've been able to run that analysis yet. But give us a little bit, and we might try and figure it out.
Cool. I figured today to start things off, since you are the VP of Customer Success at Toast, but previously, early in your career days, you were in the music industry. So how about you kind of share a little bit about that background? That's kind of unique.
Yeah, pretty unusual. I mean, there's no sort of traditional path into customer success, right? Everyone's got their own journey. But mine started in the music industry. So I started my career at Blue Note Records, which is sort of the jazz label it's the most important jazz label of all time, I think. Miles Davis, John Coltrane, all the greats were on there.
Yep.
And so when I was there, it was artists like Norah Jones and Anita Baker, still monsters of their genre. And I I was on the marketing team, and I fell into being the digital marketer before that was even a job, because at the time iTunes was just starting, and they had sent over some buttons for us to connect the artist pages to iTunes, and no one knew HTML, and I was the only one who knew HTML, and so I just started connecting it to iTunes, and that's how I became the digital marketer. And then from there, it was not a great time to be in the music industry. It was sort of pirating and digital downloads. Hadn't really figured out how to monetize it. It was pre-streaming.
The LimeWire days.
And it was sort of buoyed by the 90s. There was everyone was switching over from cassettes and records into CDs in the 90s. Oh. So not only were new artists being purchased, but everyone was repurchasing their catalogs of the Eagles or their Michael Jackson into CDs, right? So there was a big boost of revenue in the 90s that got cut off hard in the 2000s. So anyway, I went from there to working into ad agencies, because those are the people who I'd partnered with. So when I left the record label, I went over to run ad campaigns at a small ad agency in New York. Wanted to come back to Boston, where I'd gone to school here at Berklee College of Music, and then went from there to Yahoo. So I'd been buying ads from Yahoo, so I became an account manager there.
Mm-hmm.
That's those two places where I got a lot of access to data, and had to chop up data, had to use Google Analytics to optimize at the ad agency, had to use our own internal analytics tools to optimize the performance of the campaign. So that sort of set the foundation of my data orientation. From Yahoo and being in the marketing world once I was in Boston, it was hard to ignore HubSpot.
Yeah.
So I read the inbound marketing book, fell in love with the concepts of it, especially coming from the music industry where we didn't have a lot of money to throw around
Mm-hmm.
for our marketing. The concepts of inbound marketing being, more of a meritocracy than
Yep.
that of who has the biggest wallet, was very exciting for me. So I went over there and was working with customers, all kinds of different industries. One of my favorites was this batting cage up in Toronto that I got to work with, and we were blogging with them, and we were ranking on the first page of Google for all these like huge baseball terms. It was great, the work that we were able to
That's
do.
awesome.
And then through that, saw an opportunity to start developing a professional services team with HubSpot. Built that up, moved on to Notarize, a really early stage startup at the time here in town. Started their customer success function, ended up running customer success and support for them for a couple of years before I started talking with Toast, and that's where I am today.
Awesome.
Nice. Yeah, and Toast, super hot Boston company, obviously. But the industry that you work in, obviously the restaurant business, really struggled recently during the pandemic. Obviously, a huge change in a lot of industries, in particular restaurants, though, who many of which had to shutter their doors. And you guys being at the center of all this, I know it had a pretty big impact on your business, especially towards the beginning, but it's awesome to see how you guys have kind of navigated that challenge and come out seemingly stronger. Could you talk a little bit about kind of how the pandemic impacted business, and in particular internally, like how the CS process maybe played a role in helping you kind of learn what's going wrong and identify how to address some of those challenges?
Yeah, for sure. So, at the beginning of it, I think every company in every industry was sort of in the same place of what is the next couple months going to look like? How do I get to tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
And with the restaurant industry, when the shutdown happened, people were wiping down groceries, let alone going out to restaurants. There was just nothing happening. So it was a standstill, and we weren't sure what direction things were going to go. Fortunately, we had made some decisions without, no one saw this coming, that allowed us to support the restaurant industry in some really important ways, specifically around the way that our technology was built, right? And so the fact that we had our online ordering products right there, digital gift cards available to these restaurants, it gave them a lifeline and a way to continue to be able to use the product that they had in Toast and pivot the way that they were engaging with their guests. We're also able to run a couple of campaigns around Rally for Restaurants, where we partnered with a lot of folks across the entire restaurant industry to encourage guests and just people across the country to support their local restaurants if they're not going out to dinner, just by buying a gift card at the time. So the restaurant industry had some revenue flowing through so they could keep their teams afloat. We saw some interesting change of behaviors as well. So, there's a lot of third-party delivery services, but with the huge decrease in in-person dining, they had these wait staffs that weren't, running tables anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So what they would do is they would take the online orders coming through, and if you used to be a waiter or waitress, all of a sudden you were now a delivery driver for some of the restaurants, right? So they could use our platform to be able to pivot and change their operations like that. One of the things that was interesting for the CS side of the house throughout this was, I think there's sort of always two stories to tell. There's the data and then there's the anecdotes, right? And so we were able to fill in the gaps of what customers were saying and what their fears were and what their needs were that may or may not have been represented in the data and usage or support call volume. So from that, we worked pretty closely with our product team, who was fantastic in terms of their ability and willingness to pivot and adjust to support the industry and partner with us and take on our insights to quickly adjust our roadmap to make some of those changes that we were calling out that the customers were asking for.
To speak to the CS side of things, and how you mentioned you had to pivot a lot of the both product strategy and probably the CS strategy in terms of getting your customers to either adopt more of the tools they weren't using, like some of the digital gift cards or some of the online ordering stuff. Like, how were you able to kind of handle probably a lot of questions and concerns about setting up these new products within the Toast suite that some customers weren't actually using yet?
Yeah, so some of the tactics, so the like specific tactics we worked on was, so at the time I was running our customer education program as well. And so previously we had thought a lot about customer education inputs coming directly from the product team, right? We're making this adjustment, we're launching this new feature, let's make sure there's documentation around it to support our customers. And what that led to was sort of longer form, like Toast Online Ordering 101. And it would be a multi-paragraph document that if you took the time to consume it, you would be able to understand it and then go work on it. In this moment when things were changing so quickly and customers needed, especially our customers needed information immediately to get back to work and make their decisions, we shifted a lot of our inputs to the customer care team. And what are we seeing for the challenges that our customers are calling about, and making sure that we had articles to deflect those issues. We also changed our writing style to be one question, one answer, so that it was a huge expansion of the number of articles that we had, but it allowed the customers to get in and out a lot faster. We also introduced Pendo, a tool called Pendo, into our backend, which gave us the ability to pretty quickly, without needing engineering support, to set up messages to our customers that maybe told them about the Rally for Restaurants gift card campaign we were running, or would guide them through some of the quick updates our product team was making without needing to send out armies of onboarders, or to have every customer hop on a one-to-one call with a toaster.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Everybody, I don't know, maybe just given the types of customers that we have at Parlor, who are, fairly tech savvy, selling to other tech companies, but between you at Hubspot and now at Toast, like those end users, don't necessarily have to have any tech background. So it really has a impact on the types of communication that you have with your users. And I'm curious, have you found that like one type of communication, one form of communication has worked particularly well when trying to like help your the accounts that you work with, drive them towards their goals?
Yeah, and it's yes, and it's tough to think about how to scale that, because working with the hospitality industry, our customers love that face-to-face interaction. They want to shake your hand, get to know you,
Right.
know that you're a person and they can trust you. And I think, a lot of our sales team is based in the field, so that sets up that initial relationship with Toast as, here's someone who I can see and I know they're a member of my community and I can trust them, and other people around here know them as well. When it gets into the CS relationship, where a lot of the folks are based at our headquarters, we don't have that same direct in-person relationship with our customers. Also, the restaurant industry is, for a B2B software platform, they're not sitting in front of their computers all day refreshing their inbox. They're in the kitchen, they're in the weeds, they might be putting out actual fires in their kitchen on any given day. So email works. It does work, but it's not my favorite way to communicate with our customers, nor do I think it's their favorite way to communicate. So Pendo, being more of that real time, it's happening based off of certain triggers within the system, and it's right there when you need it, has been a great tool for us. We also do use SMS with our customers to text them, to communicate a little bit more. But I'm a big believer of just hopping on the phone with our customers as much as I can. It's not the most scalable approach, right? It's not the most automated approach, but for our customers, it's what is the most effective.
So you mentioned, like, we've been talking about Pinwheel, using that to kind of trigger and provide your customers what they need in the most relevant moment to them while they're in your platform. How else is Toast using data insights to drive customers to more value?
Yeah. And so I think a lot of it starts with understanding what data we need and how to make decisions around it, right? So there's the Nate Silver book, the pulling the signal through the noise. And, I don't think any company at this in 2021 is lacking for access to data. It's knowing what to do with it and what's most important to do with it. So one of the things we think about the most is not just how can we, reduce churn or drive upsells for our customers, but how can we make sure, like, actually come back to customer success and make sure that our customers are successful, and what's the data that indicates they need help in being successful, and how can we partner with them to drive their revenue, not just our revenue. And so that's some of the thing that's, first is finding the data that tells that story. A lot of that is through the adoption of our products. And so some of the things we'll look at is what are the customers who have, let's say online ordering, for instance, who have online ordering, and maybe they have a ton of takeout volume, but the percentage of that takeout volume that's flowing through online ordering is pretty small. So what that means is it's a pizza shop. They've got 100 takeout orders a day. They've got 2 coming through online ordering and 98 coming in over the phone, right? That tells us that they need help driving their users to their online ordering page. So that's a signal for us that we need to take some kind of action to communicate with them. So not only does the data tell us that they need help there, we can then also use data of similar users of those products to paint a picture for them to say, if you were to take this specific action we're recommending, your results could look like this.
Right. And that's like the benefit of your company or Toast being, kind of used across the entire restaurant experience, from the point of sale to the actual order placement and the online ordering. And, you're collecting data from each input that would, potentially help you better understand how the restaurant's operating. And that's super key.
Is that something that's similar through, like, onboarding a new restaurant to Toast's platform? Like, they're probably coming to you with some area that they really want you to excel in, but sometimes it's not always like a linear. We talked about this before, on the podcast. Like, it's not always like a linear onboarding flow for those folks. Like, they don't want to get their online ordering first, and then they don't want to always do their digital gift cards first. Like, sometimes it kind of goes sporadically, and they kind of can pick and choose what they want to focus on based on, like, their goals, or based on, like, what they need the most help from Toast.
Yeah, and I think I've been and I've worked around companies that have very rigid onboarding procedures. We do that. We must set this up, then we must move to this phase, and you cannot proceed to this last phase until you have all that set up. That's not Toast, right? And that's not the way that our restaurants operate. Going through opening a restaurant is one of the most stressful things you could ever do, and to have a software vendor dictating how you're going to do that can be frustrating. Right. So we try to be as supportive to the needs and what's going on with them. What do they have ready to go today? Let's work with them to get that stood up. Obviously, we know that there'll be downstream impacts for them if they don't set certain things up at certain times. So we try to make sure that there are safety nets down the road for them, and that there are people watching that data to say, all right, you didn't do this today, but you got enough ready to open up your restaurant. So go ahead, let's open the doors. We'll give you a call in a few weeks. We'll make sure that everything's set up once you think settle down a little bit for you.
Is there a difference between restaurants that are already established, up and running, adopting Toast, versus restaurants that know they want to use Toast from the very beginning before they even open the doors?
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think that this is specific to Toast, right? I think this is sort of the switcher versus net new. The experience that happens for a lot of software companies. I think the only difference for Toast is because of the nature of the restaurant industry, we probably as a percentage have more net new openings, right? It's rare that a company is getting off the ground in other B2B SaaS companies. Usually there's some sort of switcher approach, even if it is, I'm buying Salesforce for the first time, but we've been using Google Sheets to track our deals until then.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that there is a difference there, and for new restaurants coming on board, generally they're more open to taking recommendations on how things should be set up, whereas with an existing restaurant, they've already got an operating model, right? They had dinner service tonight, they've got dinner service tomorrow, and they need things to execute a certain way. So we need to be a little bit more flexible with those switchers and making sure that they understand, all right, here's how you used to do it, here's what it looks like here, what are some of the areas that you're concerned about not being able to utilize in this new system, and making sure that those concerns are handled.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. To kind of switch gears and go back to the beginning of the podcast, how we were talking about how Toast navigated the waters throughout the pandemic. Now that we're hopefully starting to come out of that, and we're starting to see a lot of restaurants, a lot of hiring signs going out, and then obviously all of the experience that you and the team have had around kind of how you've had to change sort of the CS optics and tactics around supporting customers during those times. How have you thought about kind of redefining what the CS team at Toast functions and operates, and also is structured?
Yeah, I think, it gave us, we were all forced into reconsidering these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think anyone wanted to go through that, but it did give us a moment to sort of hold a mirror up to ourselves and say, is this the best way to operate the process that we've built? And I think one of the things that came out of that was the difference between reactive work and proactive work, right? And if you talk to any CSM across the industry, I think, or you go to any CS event, right? What is everyone saying? It's like, we're working on being more proactive, right? We really want to be more proactive with our customers. Everyone wants to be more proactive, which is great, and we should be, right? That is the future of our discipline, is proactive engagements with our customers. But what's stopping your team from being proactive? Well, there's a lot of reactive work that we need to do that's not allowing us to. Okay. So I think one of the big things that came out of this was the ability to break out people from being a proactive and a reactive agent to, you are now responsible only for proactive work. You are responsible only for reactive work. And so that's been one of the changes we've made, and sort of stripping that responsibility of reactive work from some of the folks who are proactively calling out to our customers. And we had this great line when we called one of those customers proactively, and we started really investing in that style of work with our customers. They said, you guys are like Mary Poppins, just floating in. How'd you know I need it? I heard that from the team member, and it's like,
that's gotta feel
perfect.
good.
Yeah. So now we have a lot of like memes on the Slack channel going around Mary Poppins, right? That's like one
Just
of
like that.
it's our little mascot. Yeah. Mary Poppins. But I think that was a big change for us, is sort of the recognition that it was the reactive work that was stopping us from being proactive, and we had this opportunity to reset around that.
Do you find that the people who are more focused on either type of work have different characteristics? Is it the proactive person's the one that's really excited to get on the phone with somebody, whereas somebody's reactive might be more diligent and calculated in kind of how they organize their day-to-day work?
The way that I see it is, the proactive folks need to be a bit more like project manager esque, more of a project manager, more of a driver of behavior. So we've actually drawn some comparisons with the proactive work to that of like a BDR, right? Like you need to get someone on the phone, convince them that you're someone worth talking to, and that you're not just going to like try and sell them something, because all of our proactive work is around like actually helping the customer see value, and then get them to the close, right? And the close for a BDR is either get them on a demo with my AE, or like actually get them to buy something. For us, it's, I need to convince you that after this call or on this call, you're going to have to do some homework. You're going to have to click some clicks. You're going to have to do some additional work that you didn't expect to do this week, but it's going to benefit you long-term, right? And so that approach isn't the right approach for reactive, where you need to be much more empathetic, much more nimble to the needs of the customer, and sort of let them lead. So the proactive folks need to be more of the leader, whereas the reactive folks need to be a little bit more of a follower of the customer's needs.
That's an interesting point to bring up, because one thing we did want to talk to you about is, since we do have a good amount of listeners that are either earlier in the career or people that are trying to break into CS, is that since you are accustomed to building out teams at companies, especially very successful startups like Toast and previously Notarize, and also being at Hubspot, what do you look for when you're trying to either build out a team or hire individual CSMs for your teams?
Yeah. So for folks who are looking to break in or who are new in their CS career, welcome. We're thrilled that you're here. This is like one of the most exciting disciplines and growing disciplines within tech today. So thrilled that you're listening, thrilled that you're interested in CS. I'd say that the first and foremost, like the barrier of entry for me is verbal communication skills. I'd say even more so than written communication skills, right? You need that ability to be malleable to the needs of the customer. So I sort of look for people who can get buttoned up and polish up if they need to engage with that type of customer. And then can they also, especially for the restaurant industry, right? We have, you'd be dealing with COOs of a restaurant group down to someone who's been running the same family restaurant for several generations and knew that that was their path. So maybe they didn't finish high school. And so they've got sort of a different communication style. So how can you change your communication style to fit the needs of the person who's on the phone with you? I think if you've got that skill set, then a lot of the other components can be taught. One of the other things that I look for is the motivator for them. What drives them to work with a customer? And I sort of bucket it into two different groups. And I can usually, the way that I look for this is the type of questions that they ask me about the role. And those buckets are the way it's all about the way that they look at and care about the customer and what's going to motivate them. Not that I'm asking people on my team to do this, work-life balance is a challenge everywhere, but it's 6 o'clock. They get an email on a Friday. They get an email from a customer who's in an emergency situation. What's the motivating factor for them to hop on the phone and give them a quick call to help them through that problem? Is it either A, they truly care with their heart about that customer and they know that the pain they're experiencing and they know like, I can really help them here and make their experience this weekend so much better? Or do they care about them through their wallet, right? And it's, if I help them today, then they're not going to churn and I've got, 3 weeks left in the quarter and I can hit my number and maybe hit my bonus if I help them out here. And if you're not motivated to hop on the call, if you're not motivated through either one of those, then it might not be the best fit for you.
So what we're learning here is that if you're a charismatic fry cook, reach out to Mike. He may have a job for you on his team.
Give me a call. Yeah, I do love that. We love to hire people from the restaurant industry as well. I think that discipline knowledge does give you a lot of the ability to quickly earn trust from the customers, right? There's a vocabulary within the restaurant industry. And if you can drop some of that early on and let them know, and it's the same for any industry, right? Like car dealerships, like if you're selling into, I was just listening to your last episode of Car Gurus, right?
Yeah.
And if you can communicate using the vocabulary of your customers very quickly, you're able to earn that trust and convince them to take the steps that'll make them successful.
It's also like instant empathy, right? Like, exactly why they're calling you on a Friday at 6 p.m. and like how stressed they could be if something's not working that they needed to work like ASAP too. Like they can't go the whole weekend without something not working for them.
Yeah, especially, in some B2B SaaS companies, Friday afternoon may be when things are winding down because your customers are also starting to shut off. Restaurant industry is when it starts to ramp up. So those folks who have been there and know what like a Friday night of service could look like if this isn't fixed, they're going to be really empathetic and quickly help out our customers.
Right, exactly. Well, I think we have one final wrap-up question. Kind of goes along with the last couple of topics we've been talking about of the CS industry, CS discipline. Question for you: what growing trend in the CS space are you most excited about?
I think the way the discipline is maturing, right? And it's really it's going from sort of a job that some companies have to a proper career for a lot of people. There's a multi-decade path for people now within the customer success space. And you see that, in the order of operations, how quickly a lot of early stage companies are standing up a customer success group, right? Like you got to have a product team, you got to have a sales team, right? Like those are the two things you start with, but pretty quickly after that, they are building their customer success function, which is exciting. You see that in the amount of software that's being created for the customer success discipline, right? There's a lot of investment in that vertical. You're seeing that in their sort of one-off courses. I've even seen some colleges and universities starting to develop master's programs within the discipline of customer success and customer experience. So guys like me who come from the music industry and have found my path into customer success, I won't be able to compete in 20 years from people who are coming out with master's degrees in customer success and customer experience. So it's really exciting to see this discipline within the tech industry professionalizing, and they're becoming like standards and best practices that are normalized across everywhere. It's really cool.
Tools to purchase.
Tools to purchase. Yeah, it means that I get a lot more sales calls and BDRs in my inbox. But it's fun to see, how quickly they're all evolving and trying to one up each other. It's great.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. Well, Mike, it's been an absolute pleasure. So thankful to have you coming on, sharing your wealth of knowledge, and really hope you and Toast continue to go on this upward journey. Love to see a Boston company doing great, and shout out to Alpha over there. The Toast team, my cousin. I hope you listen this long.
Alpha, you better be listening to this whole episode, man. There's no excuse not to.
I came over for your son's birthday last weekend, so the least you could do is retweet this.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for having me, guys. I couldn't imagine a better birthday gift than spending the afternoon with you both.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to spend some time with us on your birthday. And then for all the listeners out there, so that Casey doesn't yell at us, be sure to like and subscribe.
For his birthday. Come on, guys.
For my birthday, yeah. Smash that subscribe button for my birthday.
Smash it.
There we go.